Today's topic is the SP temperament in Myers-Briggs. That is the sensor perceiver types. So there's 4 of them: ISTPs, ISFPs, ESTPs, and ESFPs. So when you think of this temperament, do you think of sloths or the cheetah? I think of both, because I think when they're in that mode of being super laid back or extremely competitive when it comes to a challenge or winning. One advantage that they have is that they're sensors, so they can focus on details that others would become impatient with. That sensor grounds them and makes them logical and linear in many ways. It stabilizes them, so they also have a patience that many other types don't have. For example, they're going to read all the directions to make that cake, whereas some other types are going to just start and figure it out as they go. They also, if they have a project, they're going to have the patience to look up what they're going to do first and then start doing it. They can trump some J's in this area because sometimes J's have an urgency to complete things, but they're going to be patient and thoroughly complete each step of the action that's needed. SPs can make great class clowns, and they can also make superior comedians, even though some of them don't consider themselves to be comedians, but most of them have some level of being funny that other types find difficult to emulate. They could be great storytellers, they can be great joke tellers. When I think of SPs, what stands out is they all seem to be adventurers. In fact, some people refer to them as the sensation-seeking personality. You're going to see a lot of people in the sports world are SPs. They love fishing, boating, golfing, playing games. These can be your storm chasers because they love the excitement and adventure. So routine actions is something to be avoided. They're also excitable. They love when they have something to look forward to and when they have something to get excited about. But just as quickly as they can become excited, they're also quick to become bored, and they don't like getting bored. They can get pretty irritated and annoyed with the dull routine that they're supposed to follow. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not capable of following routines, because they can. Kiersey says they climb the mountain because it's there, not to get to the other side. Whereas some other types climb the mountain so that they can accomplish a task or feel accomplished. It is what it is. They have a very realistic way of looking at things. They're practical, they're in the moment. They're not so interested in theories and hypothesizing. They're more interested in what is. Sometimes they can be your rule breakers in a funny kind of way. SPs are your impulsive type, so they want to strike when the iron is hot, and they really trust their impulses to lead them in the right directions, just like intuitives trust their instincts. They're not interested in being purposeful, they're more interested in action. So wherever their impulse leads them is very satisfying to the senses. They like to jump in there head first and swim their way out. They like to do something when they feel the urge and not plan it all out. They like dealing with what's immediately useful. SPs are your go-getters. Some SPs, not all, report school as boring. So sometimes they were the kids that avoided some of the assignments that the teachers gave. They like to be hands-on and get into the action. In fact, schools need to be careful not to label some SP children as hyperactive or have some type of dyslexia or disability, because that a lot of times is not the case. They just want to move around more. They want to be active and busy. They don't want to sit forever and have an endless assignment to do. These are the people who make life a whole lot of fun. These are your thrill seekers, your roller coaster riders. They're going to come up with endless activities for people to do. These are your party people. Most of the events I've ever been to are created by SP types. They are going to have parties, events, activities for everybody to do. These are also people who act quickly in an emergency situations. That's why you see a lot of people who are EMTs and firefighters, they're the action people. So you're going to see a lot of SPs in that field because they can act impulsively and not get thrown off by an emergency. They know what to do instinctually. These are the kids that when they're in college, they're going to study at the last minute. They're not going to study ahead of time because that's when they get their energy. And I'm totally cool with that. I think you have to understand what your learning style is. They do much better at the last minute versus wasting days and hours at a time. It just kicks in procrastination mode. But when they have a few hours before that test or that paper's due, that's when they do their best work. This is a very unique grouping because they're the only temperament where everyone is a perceiver, which is kind of cool. One of the things as an ENFJ that I love about this temperament is they tend to have a calming effect on me because sometimes I can get really too complex in thought and pretty wound up, and they remind me to stay in the moment, to relax, to go with the flow. And sometimes you just need that type of person around you. And I think that in many ways, this temperament might be the most liked in the sense that when I see any of the other temperaments, they seem to be drawn to someone in this grouping because I think all of the other temperaments can be quite intense and can forget to be playful and relax and have fun and go with the flow. So I see people of all the temperaments really leaning on this temperament and being drawn to them because, and I'm laughing because I was talking to one of my ESFP friends last night and we were just being silly, and I think she brings out the comedian in me, which you wouldn't think ENFJs could be funny, but I don't know. We just find so many things to be silly about, and it's nice to be able to be accepted with my goofball side. Most of the other temperaments can be very, very serious, and they lean on this type to lighten things up. And it just helps to feel better and enjoy life better. We have to have SPs to enjoy this life the way it's meant to be enjoyed. We just cannot not have them around. It's essential and it's necessary. Now, these sensor perceiver types in Myers-Briggs personality make up a very large group of MBTI. So, with that upside of laid back, go with the flow, can come a struggle that some SPs have said that they wish they could get help in, or they just can't seem to figure out, or it's a point of contention with them and other people that really frustrates them. And that is when it comes to time factors or procrastination, unfinished projects, that's an area that some of them really, really struggle with. And it's because they don't like to be cornered by time or restrictions or deadlines because something better could come up or a better idea. And so they like to leave room for that. And it just like a J feels frustrated when things are too open, P's equally feel frustrated when there's too much closure. I did a video once on procrastination that I'll try to remember to link below if you're having trouble in that area. I think where some SPs can be misunderstood or misinterpreted is when there's a timed event and you don't make it there on time, or you have an event and it doesn't start on time. People can interpret that as you don't value their time and the things that they have to do. And this is a sensitive topic for some SPs. It can be really hurtful to them when they're confronted about being late all the time, if that's an issue for them. That's just an area that you have to work on. Like, I'm starting to learn that in order to be somewhere on time, sometimes you have to stop what you're doing 2.5, 3 hours early, like before the event starts. A rule of thumb that might help is that time never stops. It doesn't. So when you're on a time constraint, you have to keep moving. There's no time to stop and watch TV or to squeeze in some other activity. You just have to stay laser focused. Sometimes getting ready ahead of time, like if there's a few things that you can do the day before, like figure out what you're going to wear. I think another thing is that SPs are very good at doing things at the last minute and getting the surge of energy that works for them in so many areas. And I think it is definitely a strength. But I think when it comes to arriving at events, that can backfire. So you have to change your strategy in that area. Now, some SPs get there before everybody else. So their sensor preference really works to their advantage. So let's talk about the thinkers in the SP temperament. They are action oriented. They will make the first move and they're ready to handle whatever comes next from any opponent or anybody. Like they're ready to step into action. In other words, they're not going to be thrown off like other types might be with the unexpected. They can be tough, and their motto could be when the going gets tough, the tough gets going, because they're very confident in their abilities. They can be very competitive and ready to outmaneuver. They're comfortable with outsmarting people, and that's going to be more important to them than pleasing people. They're drawn to what's useful and concrete. Otherwise, what's the point? They're interested in what actually happens, not why it happens. The impact that they have socially is important to them, even for those who seem aloof at times. And they want to affect the course of events. They do not like to feel powerless, and they're going to avoid that at all times. So let's talk about the feelers of the SP family. They're going to be playful. In fact, some people might consider them to be the most playful of all the types. They really enjoy responding to people in a positive way, and they like to do favors for others in ways that give people pleasure. They're sensual in that they enjoy dance, food, music, drink, amusement parks, anything that speaks to the senses. They're more into showmanship versus the competitiveness that you may see in the thinker types. However, when it comes down to playing games or things such as that, they can show a competitive side as well. They're not into analogies and symbols because they don't find it useful. They like concrete because they're sensors. A life without pleasure is not worth it for them. They view a life without joy as a really bad thing. They want to have fun, and if it's not fun, then they think you should do something else whenever you possibly can. They want to influence others and have an impact on others, and that's why you see so many of them in the arts. They want to make an impression. So if you want to learn more about each individual SP type, then check them out in my playlist. If you'd like to see more videos on the SPs, then hit the thumbs up button. Remember to subscribe. And thanks for watching Tams PsychAdvice. Now go have some fun. Bye.